Hello, I'm Kevin, a cloud support engineer based in the AWS office in Cape Town. Today, I'm going to show you how to activate AWS Identity and Access Management Authentication for access to your Amazon API Gateway REST API. Let's get started. The first step is to turn on IAM authentication on the API Gateway console. For this video, I'll use the example Pet Store API. Log into the AWS Management Console and then navigate to the API Gateway console. In the left navigation pane, expand APIs and then select your REST API. In the resources pane, select the method that you want to turn on IAM authentication for, such as GET or POST. In the method execution pane on the right, choose Method Request. Under Method Request Settings, choose Edit. From the authorization drop-down list, select AWS IAM as the authorization type, then choose Save. Repeat these steps for any other methods that you want to secure with IAM authentication. When we are done, we must deploy the API for the changes to take effect. In the left navigation pane, select Resources and then choose Deploy API. Because this is the first time deploying the API, we must create a new stage. Then choose Deploy. Note the invoke URL that shows here in the stage editor. We'll need that URL for testing in the next step. Let's go ahead and test the API using the Postman client. Paste the URL that doesn't have IAM authentication turned on in Postman. Then make sure that the GET method is selected. Select Send to send a request to the API. The status returned is HTTP 200. This output means that the request was successful. Now let's test the API Gateway method that has IAM authentication turned on to verify that IAM authentication is turned on. Paste the URL that has IAM authentication turned on in Postman and then make sure that the correct path is added and the GET method is selected. Select Send to send a request to the API. The status returned is HTTP 403 with a response that shows missing authentication token. This means that the request must be signed with an IAM identity that has permissions to call the API endpoint. Our next step is to grant the test user the permissions to invoke the Amazon API Gateway REST API endpoint. Let's return to the AWS Management Console. Navigate to the IAM console and then select Users in the left-hand pane. Under the Users pane, select Create User. Enter the username and then select Next. Under Permission Options, select Attach Policies directly. Then find and select the following Manage Policy: Amazon API Gateway Invoke Full Access. Select Next and then select Create User. Now we must get the user access keys that will be used in the AWS SigV4 signature. In the IAM console, select the user that you created previously. Navigate to the Security Credentials tab, find the Access Keys section and select Create Access Key. Choose the other use case, select Next, and then select Create Access Key. Note the access key and secret access key because we'll use these values to sign the request to API Gateway. Let's return to Postman. Paste the URL in Postman and then make sure that the correct path is added and the GET method is selected. In the Authorization tab, select AWS Signature from the Type drop-down list. Fill in the following fields: the access key with your AWS Access Key ID, the secret key with your AWS Secret Access Key, the AWS region, the region where your API is deployed such as US East 1, and the service name, which is Execute API. Select Send to send the request to the API. The status returned is HTTP 200. The status means that the request was successful. So now you know how to activate IAM authentication for access to your Amazon API Gateway REST API. Thanks for watching and happy cloud computing from all of us here at AWS.